When the silence in the house stops feeling gentle, it changes texture. It thickens like broth left too long on the stove until every ladleful of quiet is heavy with residue. You sit in the same chair you have owned for 23 years, the one that still carries the dent of your spine, and you realize the cushions no longer hold your shape. They hold your echo. The clock on the wall is not loud, yet you hear it swallow seconds whole. Each tick is a small silver coin dropped into a jar you cannot open. You count them without meaning to, 1, 2, 3, until the numbers feel like a second heartbeat. Outside, the street lamp flickers once, twice, then steadies, casting a rhombus of orange across the carpet. Inside, the mind begins its nightly migration from thought to thought, a restless herd that never arrives at greener grass. A memory surfaces. Your mother's hands flower white while kneading bread, the radio humming a song you can no longer name. The memory fades, replaced by the sudden certainty that you left the back door unlocked, though you checked it twice. You stand, joints protesting like old wood floors, and verify the lock. It is secure, yet the reassurance dissolves before you reach the living room again. This is the first scene. The ordinary moment when anxiety slips indoors without knocking, wearing the face of a familiar neighbor. Scene 2. The kitchen at 4:30 in the morning. The kettle exhales steam that beads on the window like sweat on cold skin. You grip the counter and watch your knuckles whiten, surprised by the force of nothing in particular. A single droplet races down the glass, leaving a trail that looks like a map of every year you thought you had figured out. You remember Tom, the Navy veteran who walked the lake trail at dawn until a hairline fracture rerouted his life. He told you he mourned not the pain but the narrative. I was the man who moved. Without that story, mornings became a blank page he did not know how to fill except with dread. You understand now? Identity is a coat we forget we can take off even when the seams begin to split. Scene 3. The bedroom mirror lit only by the phone screen's glow. Your reflection looks back like someone you once promised to meet for coffee and never did. The voice inside, part commentator, part prosecuting attorney, lists tomorrow's obligations, next week's doctor's appointment, next decade's decline. Each item is stapled to the last, forming a paper chain that stretches beyond the frame. You try the sentence whispered in online articles. This is just a thought. The words feel flimsy, like trying to barricade a door with tissue paper. Yet you repeat it because the alternative is to stand in the draft of panic indefinitely. Somewhere between the 4th and 5th repetition, the chain droops an inch, not broken but swaying. Scene 4. The senior center mindfulness class. Folding chairs in a circle, the faint smell of pine cleaner and coffee that has sat too long. The instructor, younger than your youngest child, invites you to place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. You feel the absurdity, the cliché, and then, unexpectedly, the warmth of your own palm spreads like a slow tide. Around you, strangers breathe in unison, a quiet orchestra of survival. Marlene sits 2 seats away, cardigan buttoned wrong, eyes closed, lips moving soundlessly. You learn later that she is reciting, "This thought is not me, it is only a thought." She has been doing this every morning since her husband died and the house began to produce new noises at night. The card she carries is creased along the middle, soft as cloth from handling. Scene 5. The grocery store, fluorescent lights humming a note that seems designed to expose every pore. A child screams in aisle 7. The sound tunnels into your chest and ignites a memory of your own toddler years. Your mother's exhaustion. The scent of spilled milk on hot vinyl. Your heart rate climbs, a stealthy thief scaling a wall inside you. You grip the cart handle, knuckles shouting, and begin the silent mantra, "Not mine, not me, not who I am." An elderly man reaches past you for soup, his sleeve brushing yours. He smiles an apology that contains entire lifetimes of courtesy. The small human contact steadies you more than the mantra. You realize the sentence works best when paired with flesh and blood. You leave with 3 cans of soup you did not plan to buy, and a faint surprise that the parking lot no longer tilts. Scene 6. The voicemail from your daughter, the one you have played 4 times. Her voice is cheerful, rushed, ending with, "Call me back when you can." You hear what is not said, the strain at the edges, the time zone she never quite calculates correctly. Your mind writes 3 possible tragedies before the beep finishes. You press the phone to your ear, not to replay the message but to feel her pulse across the wire. The sentence rises again, slower now, like a hand raised in a classroom. This is not mine to solve. You dial, prepared to listen more than to advise, to offer presence instead of rescue. The conversation ends with laughter. Small, genuine, a coin tossed into the same jar the clock keeps filling. Scene 7. The garden bench at dusk, wood still holding the day's heat. Frank sits beside you, palms open like two worn maps. He describes the moment he felt cool air inside his nostrils and knew he had stepped outside the weather of his thoughts. It wasn't peace, he says, more like truce. And truce is enough to plant something in. You notice the rosemary bush beside you has survived another winter, its scent sharp as remembrance. You pinch a needle, roll it between finger and thumb, and the oils release a promise that some things persist without permission. Scene 8. The hospital waiting room. Magazines fanned like exhausted birds. Your name is mispronounced over the intercom. You stand anyway, legs trembling not from illness but from the anticipation of illness. The corridor smells of bleach and overcooked peas, a cocktail that instantly transports you to childhood visits to an aunt who never recovered. You recite the sentence under your breath, each word a stepping stone across a river that keeps widening. The nurse smiles, tells you to breathe, and you realize she is giving you permission to do what you forgot was possible. Scene 9. The elevator ride upward. Mirrored walls reflecting infinite versions of your worry. You watch yourself watching yourself and suddenly laugh. A small, startled sound like a finch released indoors. The laugh surprises you more than the worry. It is evidence that both can coexist, that the sky can hold both storm and songbird. Scene 10. The scan, the test, the follow-up call that turns out to be routine. You walk back through the lobby lighter, yet also aware that the lightness could leave without notice. Outside, pigeons argue over a crust. Their indifference is oddly comforting, a reminder that the world spins on axes unrelated to your pulse. Scene 11. The empty car park at twilight, sodium lamps humming awake. You sit behind the wheel and let the engine idle, while the sentence settles into your bones like warmth after shoveling snow. For the first time you say it aloud, "This is not mine. This is not me. This is not who I am." The words sound less like a slogan and more like a deed to property you forgot you owned. Scene 12. The hallway cupboard where you keep the detritus of decades, photo albums, expired passports, a Walkman that still contains a mixtape from 1987. You open the door intending to declutter and instead confront the avalanche of former selves. Each object hums with memory, the perfume of a nightclub, the salt of a child's tears, the applause at a retirement party. Anxiety arrives dressed as nostalgia, whispering that you will never be that young, that certain, that need it again. You close the cupboard, but not before selecting one photograph, you and your spouse. Barefoot on a pier, wind snapping your clothes like flags. You place it on the kitchen windowsill. A truce with the past, a reminder that what is gone is not lost. It is simply finished. Scene 13. The Sunday phone call with your brother, the one that always begins with weather and ends with politics. Mid-sentence, he confesses he wakes at 3 a.m., convinced he has forgotten to lock the garage. Pay the insurance, feed the cat. You realize anxiety has been conducting parallel symphonies in houses up and down the street, perhaps across the entire country. You share the sentence. He repeats it, voice cracking on, "Not who I am," as if those 4 words are a foreign country he is learning to pronounce. The call ends with both of you quieter, the silence no longer a contest but a shared blanket. Scene 14. The community hall mindfulness group 6 weeks later. The circle has grown. 2 new faces wear the wary expression you once owned. You find yourself offering the sentence not as advice but as testimony, the way someone might describe a trail that finally led out of fog. The instructor nods, but the real teacher is the collective exhale that follows, a soft wind moving through many rooms at once. Scene 15. The early morning dream from which you surface gasping, convinced you have missed a flight you never booked. Darkness presses on your eyelids like felt. The digital clock insists it is only 5:12. You lie still, palm on sternum, and begin the slow work of separating the dream's fabric from the linen of reality. By the 3rd repetition of the mantra, the airplane dissolves into a simple memory of rushing, and the bed beneath you feels solid again. Scene 16. The pharmacy queue. The man ahead arguing about copays, his voice climbing the scales of frustration. You feel the contagion of agitation spidering across the linoleum. Your own pulse answers in sympathetic tempo. You focus on the chill of the plastic bottle in your hand, the way the label edges lift slightly, the small imperfection that proves this moment is yours and no one else's. The sentence becomes a silent buffer, a velvet rope between his storm and your shoreline. Scene 17. The letter you finally write to your younger self, not for catharsis, but for company. You begin with "Dear One," because using your own name would feel too much like accusation. You list the nights you survived without the sentence, the mornings you stood in windows wondering if the world would ever look back at you. You close with an invitation. Meet me here on the common ground of breath. We will sit until the curtain between us becomes transparent. Scene 18. The neighbor's dog that barks at nothing and everything, a metronome of unspecified alarm. One afternoon you step outside, kneel and offer the back of your hand. The dog sniffs, falls silent, leans into your palm. The simple transaction reminds you that vigilance can be softened by attention, that suspicion dissolves when witnessed without agenda. You walk back indoors lighter, the sentence now accompanied by the scent of wet fur and shared mammal warmth. Scene 19. The rain that arrives without forecast, drumming on the awning like impatient fingers. You stand in the open doorway, rain-cool air raising gooseflesh, and notice how each drop exists for a fraction of a second before becoming part of the puddle, the gutter, the river. The impermanence is not sad. It is instructive. You say the words aloud, letting weather carry them off. Not mine, not me, not who I am. The sentence returns altered, soaked, lighter, more pliable, as if it, too, is learning to dissolve and reform. Scene 20. The evening news you promised yourself you would stop watching. Images of distant fires, close-up shots of strangers crying, anchors speaking in the measured cadence of ongoing calamity. Your chest tightens in familiar rehearsal, yet you do not reach for the remote. Instead, you place both feet flat on the floor and breathe the sentence into the images. Something loosens, not the tragedy, but your claim on it. The illusion that worry is a form of assistance. Scene 21. The birthday card you buy for a friend but forget to mail, so it sits propped against the salt shaker for weeks. Every time you pass, you feel a flicker of guilt, a small indictment of your organizational skills. One morning you open the card and read your own message. May you remember you are larger than any storm you walk through. You realize the sentence was always meant for you first. The ink has dried, but the blessing is still wet. Scene 22. The walk to the corner shop that feels like an expedition because the sidewalk tilts slightly and the knee complains. You pass the hedge where sparrows quarrel in tiny economies of seed and territory. Their urgency is comic and poignant. You see yourself mirrored in their flutter, the way they dart back to the same branch even after the danger has passed. You say the mantra under your breath, a private joke with the universe, not mine, not me, and the birds, unimpressed, continue their debate, offering perspective by indifference. Scene 23. The text message notification that pings during supper, the screen lighting up with a single ambiguous emoji. Your mind leaps to conclusions like a gymnast who no longer trusts the mat. Someone is angry, someone is hurt, someone is saying goodbye without words. You pause, fork midway to mouth, and feel the sentence settle between urge and reply. You finish chewing, wipe your lips, type back a simple question mark, and discover the emoji was sent by mistake. The catastrophe dissolves, leaving only the taste of pasta and the quiet triumph of not catastrophizing. Scene 24. The night you decide to leave the curtains open so the moon can watch you sleep. Its light pools across the blanket like spilled milk, and for once you do not tidy it away. You lie on your back, palms open, and repeat the 9 words until they lose meaning and become pure vibration. Somewhere between the 10th and 11th repetition, the boundary between the watcher and the watch softens. The moon, the anxiety, the breath, all participate in the same silver hush. Scene 25. The dawn that follows, ordinary and pink, the way most dawns are when no one is looking. You wake to find the sentence has rearranged itself inside you. It no longer feels like armor but like ligament, something that holds joints together without needing to be named. The silence in the house is still there, but it has thinned, become porous, a membrane through which life can move without knocking. You make coffee, measure out the day, and when the first worry arrives, on time, polite, persistent, you greet it with the familiarity of a neighbor whose stories you have learned to listen to without offering the spare room.